Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bulletproof Dental Practice podcast. Pete and I are very excited today to have Ericka Pierce, who is the executive director of a dental charity called All Star Smiles. Welcome, Ericka, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Where are you coming from? Where are you located right now?
I am outside of Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, pretty area.
Yeah,
Very
it's beautiful.
cool.
42 degrees right now, frost advisory, so we're feeling the...
Wait, 32 you said?
42.
Yeah, I'm in Salt Lake City. It's cold here too. I'm at some hotel here in Salt Lake. But and Pete's coming from his living room, which is good to be on a Wednesday.
This is hardly my living room, but
no, your private office. Sorry, a room in your house.
Wouldn't that be weird?
Yeah, that would be weird. Anyway, we're excited to have you here because Pete and I both adhere to the idea that the getting is in the giving, and that when you have a charitable philosophy and course value in your practice, rewards are paid back innumerably. So I do wanted to give a little bit of background about All Star Smiles for those that don't know. So I got to get my years straight, but I think it was like 2014. The injury happened for Giancarlo Stanton. Was it 14? Yeah. So in 14, Giancarlo Stanton, who used to play for the Marlins, and now he plays for the Yankees. Most of the sports people know that. I'm not a big sports fan. I don't know anything about sports. I'm just proud that I know he's a baseball player. But he got hit with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to his face, broke his teeth, and he got sent to me through a couple of colleagues in the industry. We repaired his teeth. A couple months later, he got a very large contract. $325 million contract at the time was it was the largest contract ever awarded in the history of sports. I think it's subsequently been broken. But part of the contract was that he had to do some charity, and he gave us a call and said, "Hey, I want to do charity. Are you down to do a charity?" And I said 100%. So we came up with All Star Smiles. And then Ericka Pierce came on as our executive director. And the goal of the charity is to eradicate children's dental pain, because the number one reason why a child will go to the hospital and the number one reason why a child will miss school is because they have dental pain. And we all know as dentists, when a child or someone goes in with dental pain to the emergency room, there's not a whole lot that they're doing for you. They might give you some antibiotics. They might be able to call an oral surgeon in to do an extraction, but if you just have a rip and toothache and need a root canal, at least in the emergency rooms that I know, they're not going to really do very much for you. So Ericka, let's talk about how you got involved and talk about what excites you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I got involved shortly after the inception of the idea of All Star Smiles, and I love that story. It's so interesting, and it really speaks to the fact that when how easily people can connect when you're talking about doing good and giving back to the community. So I love that, and thank you for that story. But what really lights me up, obviously, is giving dental practices an outlet to boost their practice through charity. And I feel like that's just so important. There's intrinsic and extrinsic value and benefits to supporting charity. And, some of the obvious are like the tax deductions, and probably that's the most immediate way that you would see benefits of donations and having these events. You won't necessarily see your impact in the community right away, but at the end of the year, you'll quickly notice your tax savings, right? So that's always out there and a good one. But what I really love talking about is how it boosts company and practice culture and team morale. And I know that's something that you guys lead with, is putting your team above all else. And there's no better way, in my opinion, to do that than by supporting a charity and actually having one of these charity events.
Hey, Pete, let's talk about you for a second. I know that ADS Cares came about within the last couple years now? When did it start? What was the inception of that? How did that get started for you?
It's probably been a couple of years. Yeah. And so we were doing so ADS Cares was a program. Ericka, I'll give you a little context and the listeners. I wanted to kind of fill a couple boats. I was doing giving on my end just personally from my family position. And I said, there's got to be a way to kind of involve my team. And as you know, studies will show that the more you can align your team with your vision, your culture, and just things that they feel democratically involved with, it helps with, like you said, with the culture and stuff like that. So every month, if we hit certain benchmarks from the business, every month we vote on the charity that means the most to us. And so if someone has a personal story about, leukemia, their father, whatever it may be, right? They put it into the vote, and the team votes on it democratically to see who we're going to work for, and deploy that to, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's say it's actually sent out in a Survey Monkey, and so let's say there's four charities that we want to get involved with. That will happen, like I said, if that trigger point of the business benchmarks from a financial standpoint happens, then we write a big check. We make, it becomes this big celebration at the end, and everyone feels like they are being philanthropic themselves, even though it's not coming out of their pocket. It aligns them with a mission bigger than themselves. I think that's healthy for everybody to do. Mm-hmm. So that's been a really cool thing that we've done. Actually, one of my best buddies wrote a book. His name is Chris Tuff, and he's the Millennial Whisperer. And that story is kind of featured in how you will, his whole thesis of his book is learning how to communicate with millennials, because they want and they feel, they're not motivated by money the way Gen X was, or most aren't. It's more, they're more of a tribe. They're more of a experience thing. They're more of a purpose.
Well, they want meaning over money.
Meaning, well, sometimes, and that's a sweeping generalization, right? You want me to get Mark back on? Mark Cooper back on to show you.
Ericka, just so you know, I made this conversation about millennials, and we had this guy on named Dr. Mark Cooper, and he ripped me to shreds. He's like, I'm going to give you some unsolicited feedback right now. He goes off on this tangent. Just because I said, hey, millennials tend to like this. He's like, he ripped me apart. But a lot of people came into my defense, by the way. They're like, that was really unfair at him, but I took it. It was all good. But but studies do show that millennials for different generations crave meaning. Like my generation, we were good at showing up to work, Gen X, and making it look like we were actually working when we weren't, or feigning that we were interested. Millennials don't do that. They don't BS as much. They will, and again, we're speaking in sweeping generalizations, but they do like to work for a why. Yes. And that's why I think charity for a younger workforce is more important than, let's say, it was in my father's era or my era.
Well, look how popular social media is, right? For the generation. It's popular for all of us now, but even, it was kind of born in the era of more millennials. They were raised on that. And to have social impact, right? And then have it being talked about on social media, and then being recognized for it, and then being aligned and being proud of the team, the practice that you work for that does provide that. It's like this virtuous cycle that is a nice feedback loop, and it feels good all the way around. But like I tell people, because I've had other dentists ask me, like, well, that's not possible for me. I said, well, okay, well, when is it possible? If you're doing 100,000 now, if you do 125 next month, is there $2,000, $1,000 of discretionary money that you could deploy towards this? And like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, we'll set the benchmark to where it's healthy. Everybody has to win, meaning the team has to win, the business has to win, and the owners who took the risk have to win. And of course, then the charity can win. But like, if it's not a sustainable model, then then you don't want charity to become from a place of like, ooh, this is painful for me to do, and I don't really like doing this. It has to come from a place of celebration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, celebration.
And that's
for sure. And that's why
we got into it too. Sorry, I'm just going to add one thing to what Pete's saying. We all got into dentistry to help people. And then the reality, once our practice owner sets in, of HR, payroll, malpractice, and all these other realities that set in, and we tend to get jaded over time. And having a charity event or a charitable endeavor is a way to set the barometer back to focus on why you get into it in the first place. We just completed Freedom Day, which is last month. We worked on veterans, and it felt really good to give back. And it is great marketing. If nothing else, it shouldn't be taken as that. The main spirit of it should be to give, and giving will make you happy and fulfilled. But the marketing that can come out of it it's
a gold mine. It's a gold mine for sure. And there's no denying that, the millennials really have driven this social responsibility movement. Depending on what source you read, it's between 70 and 85% are reporting that they'll choose and spend more with brands or companies that support a social cause. So that's fantastic. And I see culture directly related to connectedness. When I say that, I mean like how connected is your team to its teammates, its practice's purpose or mission, and its patients. And when you have a high or positive company culture, I mean, everybody's in flow and doing what they love to do, and who doesn't want to devote their skills, time, and energy to a place that they feel connected to, right?
There you go.
So,
There you go. That's perfect. Well said. Well said.
But I do believe, and I hate to keep coming back to the generations, different generations value different things. And I'm really happy, when people do complain about the millennials, I hear a lot of older doctors, I guess my age and older, saying that the work ethic is different. And it's just because they haven't differentiated their practices to stand for something beyond just making money. I think it's really important and incumbent upon the people that are listening that might have a practice that doesn't have a set of core values, or at least an operating agreements of what they stand for. Draft that. You have to have that. There's no coincidences. Pete and I developed very different practices alone without each other's guidance, and then met each other 3-4 years ago and like started to pick each other's, and we still do this. I say, hey Pete, do you do this? He's like, yeah, of course I do that. I'm like, there's no coincidence. There's a redundancy in the way Pete designed his practice and the way I did. Not a redundancy, but a similarity. We both arrived separately, but in a very similar place.
There's analogs for sure.
There's so many analogs. Our hygienists were just together this past weekend and out in the meeting that Pete introduced me to in Nashville. And that I heard so much synergy in the way they operate and their core values and ours. So it is important that you have that. If you don't have that, I suggest getting.
But I think, Ericka, back to what you're saying, I think alignment is one of the missing components of high performing teams, and philanthropical endeavors or missions can be one component of creating that, right?
Yeah.
Where it might be a void. So I guess what I'm saying is if you don't feel like your team is aligned, if you're a dentist listening to this and it's like your team is, there's subgrouping going on and it seems super fragmented, like this may be a strategy to do good by doing well.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And maybe to take a step back, one of the things that I repeat over and over to practices that I heard from our nonprofit advisor is that if you don't write your social narrative, somebody else will write it for you.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Pete Boulden thing to say.
Yeah. I'd say because it's true.
That can come right out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's so true. And, to take it a step further, when you have that narrative or mission and you put it into action through charitable giving or having a charitable event, then you are landing and opening up a marketing goldmine.
Totally.
And
here's the funny thing, Ericka, and I know we're talking about giving in the context of dentistry, but I think one of the funny things I see is I have dental colleague friends of mine who are very charitable, but they give from just personal and no one knows about it, right? Mm-hmm. There's no celebration, there's no alignment. And I think there could be a nice arbitrage of like, just convert that into your practice side and let other people be involved for the win so that they can feel that.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
It creates brand equity,
Brand equity. Perfect. Yes.
Right. So it's the emotional connection the public has with your practice. If you're not marketing that, then you're losing out. And well, let me ask you this. Dr. Craig, Dr. Craig. So what do you think your patients think about when they think about your practice?
Well, the easiest way to answer that is I read the Google reviews. So if you want to know what your brand is, listen to how other people interpret it. You could set out to say that you're the fastest or the most convenient, but if your Google reviews say that they're waiting really long and that it's more, so the Google reviews remark about the culture oftentimes, the family, the way they feel, the way that everybody feels aligned, and the way they feel treated. I mean, when they're good, when they're bad, of course, there's a commonality there too. But the good side is that.
Yeah, and I'll speak from my perspective, being a patient of Spodak Dental Group before I was ever employed. With All Star Smiles, I'll tell you exactly what I thought. Like if somebody was mentioning at my previous employer about wanting a dentist or needing a new dentist, I was like, oh my gosh, of course I spoke to the skill and professionalism first, but then I led with, and he has a LEED certified building, it's state of the art, you have to see it, it's crazy. And he also supports local artists. He has, almost like a art gallery, supporting local artists in the building. And he does these amazing charitable events. So all that stuff is your social narrative, and that's what people like to talk about. And like I said, if you're not marketing that, then you're definitely missing out. And these charitable events are great if you do it right. The fallout to a charitable event is a gold mine. You can create social media content, and pepper it out through the year, reminding people of what it is that you've done. The photo and video assets, patient and participant testimonials, and then there's, of course, traditional media opportunities. They all speak to that narrative. So
I think it's also important. A lot of people, listen, there's one thing there's different types of giving, and Pete, you touched on something that kind of resonated with me. Your friends that do really good things with no credit. There's something to say about, giving and helping people and not getting any acknowledgement for it, and one of the things that if you want to give from a place of authenticity, give to children. And that's why I love All Star Smiles, is because the kids don't write these notes. They don't tell you how much they appreciate it, because, doing hardcore dental work on kids when they're in pain is not sometimes easy. And I think when you give and you get really very little direct feedback from the person you gave, or if you give anonymously, it's actually you giving from a deeper part of yourself. You're acknowledging yourself, and I think it's a more a genuine and deeper sense of fulfillment when no one else knows. And that's a cool way to be. But also for those that say, like, yeah, I do a lot of good stuff, but I don't want to put it on social media, I would challenge those people to say, why not? Because you never know who's watching. Like, Pete and I were minding our own business, running practices for decades between us, not doing anything. And all of a sudden we realized, what, we should start a podcast and just start paying it forward and giving all the stuff that we know for free to help our professions under attack. Hence the reason why the Bulletproof, we feel like there's bullets coming from all different ways. And, there's a conversation that can naturally go on in our own heads. Like, who are we to say this? Who are we to do that? And who are you not to do that? You never know. Your conscious and unconscious leadership is is always around you. So conscious leadership is what you say, but unconscious leadership is what you do. And when you show people what you do, you give permission to other people for them to follow in your footsteps. And as long as you're doing it right, you should put it out there and maybe inspire the local dentist or your competition or the local businesses to follow in your footsteps. ADS Care should be out. All Star Smiles should be out, because it's telling other people, like, hey, this is the standard that we believe business should rise to, and you should as well. I think it puts,
there's no shame in, like you said, the getting is in the giving. Yeah, you come from a place of authenticity and share it for the purpose of inspiration. But there's no shame in saying, hey, listen, we're doing great things and we're proud of it. I mean, why not? It's beneficial to, the community and the practice and everybody involved. So.
But I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes when I'm having a down month or a tough time at work and we have a charity event coming on, I'm paying the team, and I'm thinking about the numbers. My brain, I'm sure, Pete, you could admit to this too. We go scarce sometimes. We're human. So we have a scarce moment where we're like, oh, should I really be doing this? I should be holding on to this money. I should be investing this money in a new piece of equipment. And that's normal. And that's normal. And I feel that way. And Pete, I'll speak for you because you share with me. Pete feels that way too. But
I had to do that, Craig, because I would every month, if it was just me secretly giving, I could justify anything of saying like, it's going to be a tough month. Next month, let me hold on to these funds. But if I publicly declare and I involve my team into it, I can't. I have to be authentic with that plan, right? So I can't say
partner. It's an
accountability, absolutely, because I could always justify like, I gave a lot last month. Let me hold back this month. Right.
It's like saying you're losing weight to yourself.
Or no, saying you're on a diet, right?
Yeah. And then getting up in front of a whole bunch of people like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds by, 6 months or 3 months from now. It's a different thing.
Yeah. It's true.
Well, when you have these, when you're doing something, whether it be every month or you're having like annual events, they really create strong traditions, which promote a sense of pride and ownership in the practice's culture. So even if you're not, you are, giving out monetarily, but the gain is tenfold. And
But
you become like anticipated events. And I guarantee that there's team members in your practice that you have no idea, like they have these unhidden talents and things like that. And it's events like these where people really get lit up and you get to see another facet of that individual, and it bleeds over into the culture. It's really beautiful.
So, Craig, I would also venture to say that that's one of the reasons, one of the probably many reasons you and I have very low turnover too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because, yes, there's benefits, meaning like health benefits and stuff like that we provide. And, you gave away free lunch, which is crazy. But I'm saying that, like, that feel good, a lot of practices don't do this, is what I'm saying, right? And if you're going to switch jobs, like they have to calibrate all these things, like, oh, look at all this cool stuff I get over here versus like here, they're just paying me more, right? But I get these feel goods over here, and I'm getting taken care of, and I'm taking care of other people, physically with what I do every day, and then working hard, deploying discretionary dollars towards philanthropic. So I'm saying that, like, all these little things add up to, making our teams and our lives better is why we're enabling other people, because we're having less turnover. There's happiness going on. There's alignment, and you're doing good by doing well, is what I said already. So
yeah, and there's a lot of people that make a lot of money and they're freaking miserable. So money is just one ingredient in fulfillment. Obviously you need it, and that's important. But we always talk about patience in the absence of value. People shop price for a patient. So if you can't differentiate yourself as a dentist, they're just going to go down the street.
Or practice.
The guy who has a practice. Yeah, I'm sorry. If you can't differentiate yourself as a practice, the patient's going to go down the street and go to a guy with a coupon for a $500 implant, even though in practices like Pete's and mine, you could barely buy the implant in the box for a couple $100, never mind place it in someone's mouth for that. And it's the same thing for team. In the absence of anything that's differentiated in your workplace, someone will leave you for $1 more. Why not?
Right.
And when you have a common cause, people tend to get along better. We talk about teams, and teams are really one. And I used to talk about this a lot, like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I was working more with Chuck. But he would always say teams are groups of people organized around a task. So everybody talks about, like, the highest level of practice management would be to have a team, to have a group of people organized around a task. But Chuck Blakeman would postulate and push back on me and say that the best thing is to have a community, and a community is a group of people organized around a relationship. Communities tend to get better than teams, because teams are like, well, that was my thing. I kicked the ball to you. You didn't kick it in the goal. So, dude, I gave you the layup. You didn't get the dunk. But a community is like where you all take care of each other. And one of the community building aspects is to have common values and beliefs. Pete and I have very common rules and beliefs and values. That's why our relationship is good. Ericka, you and I have the same thing. Everybody that you have a good relationship with, it's because you share the same rules and beliefs, same values.
Eric, I have a question for you, Craig, when you're done. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, I was going to go like 5 more minutes. It's fine.
That's all right. Well, good. I'll catch you off then. Ericka, I think sometimes people too, and I've been guilty of this, but I've had friends and colleagues even who are like, you know what I can give isn't going to be enough. And so they feel like it has to be this massive deployment, this massive load of funds. And like, so granted, Craig and I probably give more than the average practice because of the scale we have, but it's commensurate to what we do. So meaning, Craig, I actually implemented Blairsville Cares too, because it worked so well that I actually did it in my PPO practice that I own, Ericka, but it's a much smaller amount, but the effect is the same. Right. And so I think where I'm going with this is I'm trying to say, like, if you're not doing something, just put a chip on the table in terms of like doing it. If it's $100, $300, whatever it is, just get in that mentality. And I would incorporate it to do it. I would encourage you to do it through the vehicle of your team so that everyone can partake. But I think the amount is irrelative, is what I'm trying to say.
I agree with you. I mean, every little bit helps. It's so cliche, but it's so true. And donations are a huge, help. But what really, in our case, speaking for All Star Smiles, what really supports us and our charity is building an alliance of charitable dentists. So we have an affiliate dental network where we offer really a turnkey approach to having these events where I hold your hand and give you all the guidelines and consent forms and everything that you may need to hold a successful charitable event in your own community, in your own practice, with your own team. And it's modeled after really successful events that Dr. Craig has had in the past.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had that kind of someone to, implement that. You're the implementer of helping other people get involved with All-Star. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
How would someone find out? Like if my team wanted to do it, like how do you, what's the best way to do that for someone?
You can go to our website, allstarsmiles.org. And at the top, there's a Get Involved tab. And there you'll see all of our guidelines. You can download all of the consent forms, all types of patient consent forms, everything that you would need. But first, what you would do is register to be an affiliate dentist, where that would kick off a call with me, kind of really evaluate the practice and what the scope of service you'd like to offer, how big of an event you'd like, keeping it completely customized to what it is that you're wanting to offer. And hopefully, like I said, do an annual event. February and October are great times, just because it's Dental Health Awareness Month and Children's Health Awareness Month. So those are really great times to do it. But anytime, any size is amazing, because we're definitely part of the solution of eradicating childhood tooth decay, but we can't do it alone, and we want to make this a nationwide effort. So that's why we're creating this alliance and this network of charitable dentists.
And by the way, the reason, like, if we go all the way back to like the beginning of our charitable endeavor, it was Dr. Dudley in my practice, Tiffany, Pete. She said, let's go do a Habitat for Humanity build. So we were up on a roof like 15 years ago, or maybe 12 years ago rather, and we're smacking nails into this house. And we started talking to the owner of the house, and she was working right alongside with us. And she's like, what do you guys do? Why are you guys here? I go, we're dentists. And she's like, oh my God, I have the worst toothache. I've had the worst toothache for so long, I can't afford it. And I was like realizing what a gross misappropriation of our talents, because I'm a dentist and we're dentists, we're smacking nails into a roof, and we have the power to help heal. And everybody can give money. And I think it's cool that, we have, charitable audience and dentists that can give money. But if you see 1 or 2 kids or 3 or 4 kids on a day as a part of an All-Star Smiles program, you can change that kid's life forever, and money can't buy that. So a lot of the listeners, a lot of our people, our core audience are people that are hungry for learning. They're already the top 1% of dentists. Even if they're not there yet, they're learning, they're listening, so they want to grow. And what a way to help transform the life of a child, in that instead of going to the Medicare clinic, and by the way, even though you may say there's Medicare and they can get their treatment done there, if you've gone to many Medicare clinics, I can't speak for all of them, but they're not like our own practices. So if you can provide the level of comfort and care and compassion that we do in our practices to a child who can't otherwise afford it, I think it's just a transformational experience for them. And that's the spirit of the charity. It was not just to give access, because there is access for those kids, but to show kids what dentistry can be like, the transformational experiences that we provide our patients. So it doesn't have to be big. It could be an hour of one day a year. It could be 2 hours of one day in 1 year. It could be 1 kid. It could be 10 kids. It doesn't matter. You change 1 kid, it's a whole, you really done more than just one life, touch one life.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, let's do it. You want to do it?
Do what?
I'll put you on the spot. I want to get you involved one day at one of the locations. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean,
your team would be all over it.
I think we've got a big, we would. I'd love to.
I think it'd be cool. It'd be cool. What's cool too, by the way, is every year I've had my children there. So Sage, Amzi, for those of you who don't know, Pete's got a daughter named Amzi. Amzi and Sage, my daughter, are friends. It's really cute. Have the families all involved. But Sage is right there with kids, with holding their hands. They're scared, they're crying. But there's a beautiful thing when a 9-year-old is holding a 9-year-old. My daughter, the 9-year-old, Amzi would eat it up, man. She would eat it up. And the kids do really well, and they're holding each other's hands. And you hear my daughter saying, "It's going to be fine. My daddy's really good." And now, like, my daughter's so not, like, literally on Sunday, she was eating. She's like, "Daddy, my tooth is loose. Can you take my tooth out for me?" She's like, "I'm not enjoying my food." So I grab her, I pull her tooth with a paper towel, and she's bleeding. She's like, she's fine. But she's gone through so many, and my wife can't handle it. My wife is like, "I can't be in this freaking room. I'm so scared." But my son and my daughter are right there with those kids. Awesome. And it's really cool for our families to see that. What better way to show your kids character and caring than to have them involved in something like that. Bring your family, bring your kids into your own office and do that. You know, what you do, Peter, with ADS Cares is absolutely wonderful and inspirational. And it's another level of actually doing it and providing the services that we can, collapsing those domains of just the money and the talent. It's cool that we can do that stuff. So we'll get MZ on it.
Love it. Love it. Ericka, anything else you want to add before we wrap? I know we're being sensitive of time here.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered a lot. I did have one point that I wanted to kind of back up and add to, and that was when you were talking about turnover and how company culture, you know, really affects that. But I also want to look at when, you know, a practice is in the, you know, recruitment stage of growth, that having a positive company culture, practice culture, really attracts a higher caliber talent. So that's always something to keep in mind too. So it's not just retaining, but it's also the recruitment business part of it too. Like you said, you know, being worth more than a paycheck. It's those fringe benefits, those intrinsic benefits that people are really looking for these days. And those are the type of people that you really want on your team, you know, because they're going to perpetuate that culture and add to it.
Yeah, I think that's great. So attract and retain, and that works for both patients and team members.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so true, man. It's so true. Sorry, I think, Eric, I think I just called you man, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's cool, dude.
I call Michelle, my assistant, bro all the time. It's so funny. It's like, because I'm so familiar with her and I work with her all the time. She's like, did you just call me bro? I'm like, I'm really sorry I did that.
Next.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Ericka, thanks for spending the time with us this morning. You know, it feels good. I'm glad to have these conversations for people so that they can hear the benefits of what Craig's doing and All Star Smiles and kind of the ADS story again, the ADS Cares, and just maybe it will inspire someone to either get involved with it with All Star Smiles or, you know, make their own kind of you know, philanthropic alignment in their own practice, whatever that means. You know, like I said, it can be small, and as the practice grows, maybe that it can grow commensurate to that.
Yeah,
but I think
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it's just a nice awareness that you've raised today, and it's a nice thanks. Yeah, I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're interested, we'll put the allstarsmiles.org website in the show notes and get involved. Ericka's great. She's has a passion for this, and she just really cares, and that's what makes it so special. So I hope that we get people coming over and joining the cause, or like Pete said, do your own thing as well. Part of me, we started with a beach cleanup like 9 years ago. It was like 3 people with a trash grabber and
that's cool.
A couple buckets, and we made a T-shirt. And then I'm really proud. Just this past September, we had like hundreds of people, and it was bigger than we called the SDG beach cleanup, but now it's like delivery dudes and Surfrider Foundation. It's just huge. And you know, listen, be the spark that starts something huge, and get out of the way and let it grow. And that's my hope for All Star Smiles. So thanks for your time, Eric. Being here.
All right, everybody, have a great day. Craig, be safe and warm. Actually, Ericka, same with you. And thanks again, y'all. Y'all have a great day.
Same.
Okay, take care, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.